everybody, and welcome to this episode of Hank's Corner. I'm Hank Jr., part of Hank Jr. Production, where I'm documenting life's moments through photography, videography, and now podcasting. And tonight on Hank's Corner, I have a very special guest. She has a song that has recently reached #1 on the Music Mafia radio. And I'm definitely looking forward to talking to her tonight. Jessica Lynne Witty, how are you?
Hey Hank, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate
Uh,
it.
I'm glad you can come on. And the first question I always ask is, where are you calling in from?
Well, right now I am in rainy Tacoma, Washington.
Okay,
So yeah,
so it's always rainy season there, I guess, right?
pretty much. If you don't like rain, it's not a place for you. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Here in
Yeah,
Florida, we do have the thunderstorms during the summer that I
this is
remember
true.
as a kid that used to only last an hour or 2 hours, but since I moved out here, it seems like it's all day now during the summer. So it's
Hey, that's
not as
false
fun.
advertisement.
I know they got me over here and it started pouring. But Tacoma is kind of your home base now, correct?
Yeah, well, it is. I've lived in the Pacific Northwest for the last decade or so, and I travel back and forth. I basically live half time in Nashville, half time here. So, but right now I'm here, and my husband and I are actually getting ready to go on a little vacation tomorrow. So it's
Yes, I heard about
timely.
that. And so I'm glad that you took the time to come on because I know
Of
if it's anything
course.
like me, you're packing like crazy. So hopefully
Yep.
you have a good time out there doing that. But
Oh, it'll be
one of
great.
the things that I had noticed is that you were actually down here in the Tampa Bay area for the Strawberry Festival, and I'm
Yes, I was.
so disappointed that I could not get it into my schedule to go and see you. But
Oh,
tell me how was that? Because you actually did play quite a bit. They had you playing like 3 shows a day, correct?
for 11 days. Yes. It was myself and I have a duo with another Pacific Northwest artist called his name is Chris Jones,
Hmm.
and he and I were we're playing the Strawberry Festival, and we were in Florida in Plant City, right? So that is very close to Tampa Bay, and we had yeah we were playing 11 days straight, 3 shows a day, one at noon, 4 and 7, so it was like spread out too. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun.
All right. And that's Chris Jones and you did the Redneck Tour, correct? That's what you guys were
That's right.
calling it.
That's right.
All right.
The Redneck Files tour. Yeah.
And did you get, I mean, that was a lot of playing that you had to do, but did you
Yeah.
get to enjoy the festival? Did you get to eat some food, see other artists? How did that go for you? Or was it all work?
Well, there's only so much you can do in between shows because you also need your rest, right? And it's hard to get rest when you have like an hour or two in between everything. And but 11 days is enough that if I just walked around once a day, I felt like I saw a lot of it. I didn't even. I mean, I probably saw a third, maybe half of the entire festival. So it's a big festival. Have you been? You've been
Yeah, so I was
to it?
there
Yeah.
this year. I just haven't had to get the opportunity to see
Yeah.
you, which was kind of crazy because you did play so much. But this year was actually my first year to be able to really get there and enjoy it because the previous 2 years
Yeah.
things were just kind of thrown off from me. But
Yeah.
did
Well,
you
for
get to?
everybody.
That's for
Right?
sure. That's for sure. And did you get your share of strawberries while you were there?
I sure did. I ate strawberries every day. I only had strawberry shortcake twice. And I say only because there are people who eat it every day. But
Yeah,
that is good stuff. So that was really fun.
it definitely is. And, one of the artists that we actually went to go see was Lauren Daigle. We had bought tickets for my
Oh
daughter for
yeah.
her 13th birthday, and that's her favorite artist. So we went there, and they said that was the second most, it was a sold out show, but they said it's the second most amount of people. I said, well, how can there be even more if it's a sold out? But apparently they, pushed a lot more people. But Reba McEntire was the one that actually
Hmm.
has the most people that showed up to the show. So, yeah,
Interesting. Huh.
definitely crowded for that one. But you're doing really well yourself because you have your latest single out called Memphis Anymore,
Yes.
and it seems to be doing really well. Tell us a little bit about that single.
Yeah, it's definitely getting some really, really good feedback. It's a song that I wrote with another artist. Her name is Carly Shane. She's in a band called Cross Atlantic, and she's from Hendersonville, which is right outside of Nashville. And she and I had played a show together her and her husband, they're a duo, and they played around with me um, in June of last year. And then we decided, hey, next time I'm in town, we should definitely write. And so we did, and it was her story, her idea of, I'll drive anywhere. Like I know the road. I'm familiar with it. I have no problem driving except through Memphis. Like that's kind of the idea of it, right? So it's not my story per se, but it is a story that I think most of us can relate to, that there's bittersweet memories and we don't really want to go back and be reminded of them.
Right.
That's kind of the idea, yeah.
And that's kind of the beauty of co-writing is that it's something that maybe not necessarily you came with all by yourself, but it is something that kind of applies. And when you do that co-writing, going back and forth, you kind of put a little bit of your touch, a little bit of her touch, and then it ends up being a great
Mhm.
single.
Yeah, exactly. Or it ends up being nothing. I mean, sometimes we just toss them out. This
Well,
one definitely had something though.
yeah, I'm definitely enjoying listening to this one in the car as I'm
Thank
driving
you.
down. So why don't we go ahead and play Memphis Anymore here on Hank's Corner?
You got it.
I'm familiar with the highway and I'm always on the go. Got some money in my pocket from yesterday's show. Got the wind in my hair, not a care, and I'm doing fine. Tonight I'm playing Little Rock, but Highway 40 gets me too close to where you come to mind. Where the city lights meet the river, where your blue eyes made me shiver, where those blue notes had us dancing right down Beale Street. If I let those memories flood back, I'll be done for. So I don't drive through Memphis anymore. Closer, there's a million sounds I know. Gonna have to pull off and take a back road. I start to feel the blues, but I refuse to break down. Will this car better get me where I need? Just take me, please, far away from this town. Where the city lights meet the river, where your blue eyes made me shiver, where those blue notes had us dancing right down Beale Street. If I let those memories flood back, I'll be done for. So I don't drive through Memphis anymore. So I turn off the radio and I hold my breath till I'm on the other side of where the city lights meet the river, where your blue eyes made me shiver, where those blue notes had us dancing down through Beale Street. If I let those memories flood back, I'll be done for. 'Cause the day you left me there, I swore I wouldn't drive through Memphis anymore. Anymore.
Welcome back to Hank's Corner. I'm Hank Jr. along with my special guest tonight is Jessica Lynne Witty, and you just heard her latest single, Memphis Anymore. So tell me a little bit about your story because, I know you said you've been in the States for a while, but prior to that, you were somewhere else. So give us a little background on that.
Yeah, that's right. I grew up in Denmark over in Europe, and I'm half and half. Is what I like to call myself. My mom's Danish and my dad is American, and I grew up on the Danish side. So I speak fluent Danish and fluent English, obviously. So I moved over here being the States in 2010 to follow my dream of making country music. So that's really the Cliff Notes version right there. Short one.
Okay. And what is the country scene like over there in Denmark?
I probably can't even speak to what it looks like now because it's been, 12 years. So, but when I left, it was non-existent. So there was like it was nothing. If they knew of country artists, they would maybe know Dolly Parton, Johnny Cash. Like those are, and that's because of their movies and their crossovers. But when I told my mom that I opened for Trace Adkins, she was like, "Who?" You know, and, Tim McGraw was playing that night. Who?
Well, and
So yeah.
you do mention that you don't know how it is now, but with social media and the way Spotify and iTunes and everything else is playing, one of the interesting phenomena is that artists are starting to see that really their music is kind of taken off overseas, and even in the town that they're in, they may have the followers from going to their shows, but they're seeing a lot more and more from overseas. I've seen Ireland just booming
Hmm.
with country music, and that was kind of a shock to me. So I wouldn't doubt if it's starting to move over there as well. But
Yeah.
I heard that being that you didn't have a lot of country music, there was I think it took you getting sick to discover country music.
Yeah, I did. I was really young. I was like 12 or 13. I can't remember exactly when this went down, but I was homesick from school, so like I had the flu or cold or something like that. And there was I just had I was in the living room. I had the TV running, and there was a channel that didn't normally exist in our cable package. That was CMT, and didn't stay there. It was only there for a little bit, but it was long enough for me to listen to it and fall in love with country music, and just I've loved it ever since. And it was really hard to get to back then because I had to like either import it or when I was over visiting the States, I'm not visiting my dad, of course, who lives over here. Like I would hit the record stores and I would go buy cassette tapes and CDs and what have you. Um, because, no internet, no Spotify, no other way of listening to music except that media. So it was really hard to be a country music fan in Denmark at the time. Like you mentioned, it's a lot easier now,
Yeah,
right?
it
A lot more
definitely is.
accessible.
The younger people today don't have that same problems that we had back then. But I don't want to be
Yep.
considered one of those old people just yet. But uh,
Not just yet.
but who were some of the influences that you picked up on early on in that time?
Well, the one song that did it all for me in the beginning was uh, Faith Hill's "Wild One" because it was the girl in the video was kind of my age, and it was just like she was singing about me. Like I really really related to that. But then in those beginning days, I was a big John Michael Montgomery fan. I
Hmm.
loved Garth Brooks, of course. Can't not mention Garth Brooks. Reba, of course. Martina McBride. And it seemed like there were a lot of women in country back then, at least compared to now. I feel like it was more even, at least. And then as time went on, I really fell in love with Kenny Chesney and Gretchen Wilson and that side of country during the zeros, I guess, and the first decade.
Hmm.
And then I finally decided to move over here. So yeah, it was
Okay.
educational.
But you have a song that hit number one on the Music Mafia radio called "We're Not Even Drinking." So
Hmm.
congratulations on that. Let's go ahead and
Thank
play that,
you.
and when
All
we
right.
come back, we'll talk a little bit about it.
This is heating up, we can't get enough. Hey, this thing's going down. Just a little spark is all it took to start, but it's going wild. Hey boy, I think you're thinking of what I'm thinking. That good kind of trouble we're getting in, and we're not even drinking. Not a sip, not a pour. All I want of you is more, more, more. It's out of control, and here's a crazy thing. We're not even drinking. We're taking chances now, knocking tables down. We don't mind getting caught. We never start a tab, the bartender's mad, but your kiss is the spot. Hey boy, I think you're thinking of what I'm thinking. The good kind of trouble that we're getting in, and we're not even drinking. Not a sip, not a pour. All I want of you is a more, more, more. It's out of control, and here's a crazy thing. We're not even drinking. Oh no. Not a sip, not a pour. All I want of you is more, more, more. It's out of control, and here's a crazy thing. We're not even drinking. Whoa, not even drinking.
Welcome back to Hank's Corner. I'm Hank Jr., and you were just listening to "We're Not Even Drinking" by Jessica Lynne Witty. So, tell me a little bit about the backstory of that song.
Um, this is a song that I wrote with Don Ellis Gatlin, who he's kind of he helped open a bunch of doors for me songwriting wise in Nashville. And if you have someone like Don on your side, you're very, very lucky. So I consider myself blessed to have met this guy. He has been in Nashville for almost 40 years. He's written with a bunch of the greats, including Blake Shelton, and he's just a really, really good songwriter. And currently, he's out fronting the Kenny Rogers band because he toured with him for 10 years, and now that Kenny's gone, he's playing the role of Kenny. So
Wow.
it's really fun, and he's a very, very accomplished, very well connected guy. And we sat down and wrote this. The whole idea being, hey, what if you're so high on life you feel like you're drunk, but you're really not? And so it's like, isn't it crazy? Because we're not even drinking. That's the whole idea of it. And then we just talked about, okay, well, what would you do when you're when you're drunk? And like we're knocking tables down, and then my favorite part of that song is we never start a tab and the bartender's mad. because he's not making any money or any tips or anything because we're not even drinking. So
Yeah.
it's just a fun, lighthearted song, right?
Yeah, and I definitely like that song. Like you said, it's definitely
Thank you.
fun. It's something that I mean, yeah, it could be a summer song, but it's really an all year, have a good time type of song. But like you said, you started out there in Denmark, and you had to work your way up to get into this number one. Tell me how that started, because I know when you were younger, did I hear that you started on the piano, and
Hmm.
how did you begin actually taking your interest of music and actually put it into play?
I mean, the minute I started understanding how the songs worked in country music, because they are very specific, the way it's very specific how you write in country music versus any other genre. And the minute I started realizing, oh, this is how they're put together, and here's some of the ways I started writing myself. And I was like, this was around that time when I just fell in love with country music. And so piano was a little harder for country, and a little louder for my family. So I taught myself guitar and started kind of tinkering on that. And I just started writing songs. Um, Starting to get back to your initial question. So with teaching myself and writing these songs, um, I was sharing them with people all excited, and it's such a unique genre that a lot of the people that, well, one, I wasn't as great a songwriter by then, of course, but I was very discouraged from the by all the like the feedback I was getting. Like people were kind of like, oh, my songs. So in the beginning, I tried basically everything but country. So I went, this is my teens and my 20s, and I sang pop, I sang rock, I sang gospel of all things. And I even stopped doing music for almost a decade. Uh, and none of that made me happy. So I just had to realize, oh, you know what? I'm going to go do it because it's the only thing I can think to do. So I
Yeah,
was like packing
and
up
I
and following my dream.
and I kind of had the same, experience with the photography aspect of it. I mean, I only do that
Yeah.
on the side. I got a full-time job, but it was kind of that same thing when you get started out. And I didn't realize how mean other photographers are. I mean, in some businesses they kind of help each other out, but in the
Yeah.
photography, it's almost like real estate. It's very cutthroat, and they will bash you if you're not good. So I ended up kind of, like you said, taking some time away from the outside world,
Mhm.
developing my craft, and then eventually coming back. But one of those things you mentioned was the chorus, and you did a lot of choir and gospel type
Mhm.
stuff. Would you ever do any songs now that were gospel oriented?
Oh, absolutely. I actually really want to make a gospel album. I think that would be
Okay.
fantastic.
Do
On
you
my
have any favorite songs?
20 on my 2019 release, I had a song called Heaven Bound, and it is just vocals and a tambourine. And it's a hymn. It's all about, being washed in the water. And I wrote it from my Bible knowledge. So
Mhm.
that was like my first step into writing something that was a little gospely. Um, do I have any favorite songs? Oh yeah, I have a lot of favorite gospel songs. Moving Forward by Israel Houghton. Um, Imagine Me, I think that's Donna Lawrence. And of course, basically anything Kirk Franklin. That's
Okay.
yeah, I used to sing the song Conquerors. I sang
Mhm.
lead on it in one of the gospel choirs I was in, and I actually got to sing it live in front of Kirk Franklin himself
Oh, wow, that
back
must
in
have
the
been
day.
awesome, and,
That was nerve-wracking.
I can imagine, yeah, and I'm a big Kirk Franklin fan, and I got to
Yeah,
see him, once from a far distance, but I got to see him on stage, and he's definitely great. So
yeah, he's
that's
fantastic, and
awesome
his
that you,
singers, oh my god,
yeah, they
right?
they they do have a lot of great performers that, I mean, because they come and go, and every single one of them is just pretty awesome. But so did that also kind of inspire you too? My understanding was that you like some early on, like the Mariah Careys and the people with
Mhm.
the big voices. So is that something that that you try to put in your style, or you kind of want to stick a little bit more to the traditional country?
Um, that's a really good question, especially since I have put out a lot of music since I started. Um, Especially in the last few years, I pumped out 12 songs last year, so it was um do I want to just stay, more traditional country, or do I want to branch out into something more both, I think. Like I don't I'm always saying, like, I write whatever comes out, and if it's a traditional country song, then that's what I'm writing, and if it's more poppy, then that's what I'm writing. I went in the studio with 2 songs, while I was on tour here last month, and they don't seem country at all. So, it's it's whatever the song wants, I think. And sometimes I write a song that's um just not for me, but the song's fine, and that's where a
Mhm.
publisher is helpful. But yeah, I kind of want to just follow the music wherever it goes. I don't have a plan like that. Sometimes I do think like, ooh, I'd like to write this kind of song and or this vibe of a song. And sometimes you just write whatever's in your heart, right?
Yeah, and there's still people, whether agents or publicists or, the producers that kind of want to get you into a certain box, but it's actually getting less and less of that because of the
Hmm.
social media, because of the way you can put yourself out there. So more and more artists are feeling that freedom to say, like you're saying, that if
Yeah,
I want to do this way and then the next day do something different,
yeah.
you have the opportunity to do that now that you didn't have a few years back.
True. I mean, when I moved here, it was all about who are you? What is your sound? That you had to be able to answer that, and you were not really allowed to move outside of it, or people got confused, like they didn't know where to put you. Like, and so the first few songs I released were more kind of alternative country Americana because I didn't go to Nashville to get the Nashville sound, although that was what I was striving for. So um, in the first few years here, I was branded more Americana, more alt country, and then I went full on mainstream because that is what I actually wanted. Uh, and then, of course, we all change and morph, and I love that the industry is given is at least the trend is that there's a little bit more freedom right now to put out whatever you want. But I've always felt that way. Like I've always felt like I'm gonna put out the music that I want to put out. And I just feel like I've had so much country music in me that that's all that's come out for a long time.
Well, I'm not
So,
complaining because I'm definitely liking
aw.
some of that traditional stuff that you're putting in. It reminds me of the 90s country. You got that
Yeah.
the violin or the fiddle, depending on how you look at it, and some of that stuff.
It's
So I'm
whether you can spill whiskey on it. That's what defines whether or not it's a fiddle or violin.
interesting. I've never heard that expression, so now I'm gonna have to use it. But let's go ahead and play another song here. We're gonna go ahead and play Wildfire by Jessica Lynne Witty, and we'll come back and finish it up.
I leave destruction in my wake, a trail of anguish and heartbreak. My mama tried to teach me faith, but when she gave up on me, here's what I became. I'm a wildfire out of control, dangerous and unpredictable. It feeds the fire in my soul to run wild and free. There's a wildfire in me. I joined the righteous and gave up the path to heaven is too rough.
Welcome back to Hank's Corner. I'm Hank Jr., part of Hank Jr. Productions, where I'm documenting life's moments through photography, videography, and now podcasting. And we've had Jessica Lynne Witty on tonight's show, and you just heard her single "Wildfire." So, we heard a little bit about the music side of you. Let's go over maybe some personal stuff. So how about
All right.
you're out there driving down the road, and what is going to be on your playlist?
Hmm. Currently, I'm obsessed with my memory playlist. Like, I have a playlist that's called My Memories. And every time I think of a song that meant something to me or that I just remember from back in the day, I put it on that playlist. And it is the weirdest, like, hodgepodge of like mishmash of songs you could ever imagine. Um, so driving down the road, that's what I'm listening to. And it's I mean, the last song I added was She's Got the Look by Roxette. And
Mm,
and before that it was something by Madonna. Like and then all of a sudden there's some Green Day in there, you know. So
okay.
there's a lot of Lenny Kravitz in there. So all
All
that kind
right.
of stuff. It's all over the place. All over the
And
place.
that's interesting that you call it the memory playlist because I think it was Clint Black that had a song talking about how a song brings back a memory, and it's just so amazing that it does it.
Mhm.
Especially the older you get, you're like, oh, I remember that. That's when I did this or when I did that. So that's pretty cool. I like that, the memory playlist. So uh, given a day of rest, you're not playing, you don't have to do anything. You get to choose what you're going to do. What are you going to do to either rest or have fun?
Oh, let's see. I am a like I watch a lot of series. Um, I just call it TV now, but it's Netflix or Prime or something like that. Currently, I am watching DC Comics, so um, The Flash and
Hmm.
Legends of Tomorrow and those kinds, and then I love anything sci-fi or fantasy or something like that. Like that's my if it has time travel in it, I'm sold. So
Okay. And I
that
haven't
yeah,
really been able to get too much into the DC side. My son is into Marvel, and so I kind of just
Marvel,
been following a lot of
Agents of
that. But
Shield.
yeah, but I definitely want to catch up on some of the DC stuff. So
I
let's
think
talk.
if you avoid Wonder Woman 84, you're good.
Oh, really?
That's about it. Just don't
Okay.
watch it. Not worth
Oh,
it.
wow. All right. Note taken there. So
Uh-huh.
let's talk about food. Do you have a favorite
Ooh,
comfort food?
now I'm getting hungry. Favorite comfort food? I love Indian food. Butter chicken.
Really?
It's my
Okay.
favorite.
Very, very interesting. That's a first that's came on this
Ooh.
podcast.
I
Uh,
will
w-
say that I chased chicken and waffles all over the states
oh,
on tour.
really?
So
Okay.
that's also a favorite of mine.
Yeah, I don't mind a good chicken and waffle every now and then. So, I know you're getting ready to go out and enjoy a vacation, but given
Yeah.
the opportunity, where would your favorite place to travel to be?
Okay, I have a couple of bucket list places, but one place that drew me in and all I had was a layover was Istanbul.
Hmm.
I would love to go to Istanbul and just experience that city. Has so much history. Oh, that's another thing. I'm a huge like history archaeology buff. So it has so much history, right? Because it was the center of the navel of the world for so long, Constantinople and layer upon layer of history in that town. And I just it was so beautiful when I stopped there and I saw a sunset there and it was
Hmm.
from the airport, but it was so pretty. And I'm just like I swore one day I'd come back. So
Okay, and I do like the history aspects of vacations as well. I mean, yeah, sure, I like the party side of it, but one of these days I'd like to, go over to Israel and Egypt and just go and
Oh
see all that history as well.
yes.
So, you had me at history on that one. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and end the podcast with "Drive It Like a Race Car" because I love that song, and I think it's definitely something
Thank you.
to end with. But before that, I just want to thank you for coming on my podcast, taking the time to do that, and hopefully, if you make it back here to Florida, I'm going to catch you this time. But in the meantime, if you ever want
Yes,
to be a guest on my
please.
podcast, just let me know.
You bet. This was so fun. Thank you so much, Hank, for having me, and thank you for letting me just share my story and my music with your people.
Who knew something that felt so right could be so wrong? But it's enticing like a siren song. It's got a rusted bed and the mud flaps are all gone. It may not look like nothing to you. I drive a pickup truck, but I drive it like a race car. Catch me if you can. Who do you think you are? Well, I'm a rebel with a need for speed. I drive it like a race car. I know I look so sweet and innocent. I work my job and I pay my rent. I've got a 22 in my glove compartment. Let the good girls play safe. 'Cause I'm a devil behind the wheel and I drive it like a race car. Catch me if you can. Who do you think you are? Well, I'm a rebel with a need for speed. Now drive it like a race car. You can't judge me by the way I look. 'Cause when I see the flashing lights, I just bat my eyes and I'm off the hook. Drive it like a race car. Catch me if you can. Who do you think you are? Well, I'm a rebel with a need for speed, and I drive it like a race car. 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 Drive it like a race car.